entrepreneurship is basically a person who endeavors and and the other thing which is very important, creates livelihood. Oh, we come from a traditional Goan community and we are brilliant in services, so the entire community speaks really good English. So we predominantly either go to the ship, go to the Gulf, or work in airports. Yeah, so we're very, service oriented in terms of that. My dad's been in the medical sales profession, and so is my entire family. I did my schooling in Bombay. I graduated in chemistry from St. Xavier's College, and then subsequently did my MBA from Xavier's Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar. So I worked for a couple of years with an environment activist organization called Greenpeace, and it was into fundraising, and then subsequently after that, resource mobilization. Grassroots improves livelihoods in villages through community-based village tourism and experiential learning programs, or experiential training programs. So I did Greenpeace prior to me joining my MBA. I kind of left my MBA institute without a job. So I didn't sit down for placements. Was there any resentments? My parents were extremely supportive. My family was extremely supportive. Some of my friends questioned what I was doing of sorts, but they said, hey, you're this. The biggest challenge was myself. Yeah, it's difficult leaving out job opportunities which are lakhs of rupees and then trying to figure out what to do. So the premise is we create sustainable livelihoods in villages. There are two aspects to grassroots. One is we develop villages as tourism destinations which are owned, managed and run by village communities. After having developed these villages and communities in these villages, we subsequently do the second aspect, which is marketing and business development for these villages. The first aspect, basically, how do we set up a village as a tourism destination, involves one, creating three assets. We create physical assets, so that's tents and toilets in each village community. The land is owned by the villagers itself, but on the land owned by them, we set up temporary infrastructure like tents and toilets for people who come to the villages to stay. The second asset that we create in these villages is something called as a human asset. So we train women and youth in hospitality services to showcase the village life itself. The third asset is what we create is community assets. So each village has a committee to manage tourism within inside, to look at fund management, what is the rates, what happens to the village development fund, also what happens in case there is any conflict. These are the three different assets which are created in each village. Once it is set up, the other aspect of grassroots, which basically looks at marketing and business development. So we basically market these villages to tourists who come to these villages for a holiday, or to educational institutions and corporates who come to these villages for a learning program or a training program. Basically, I left college with a simple premise: is how do we create livelihoods within India? It started off with, so I come from a minority community, and I've always believed in the brilliance of India, and India is one of the most, in fact, the most accepting countries of all across the globe. We've had multiple religions, people from different communities and different languages being able to live in peace and relative communal harmony throughout. But the riots in '93 and subsequently the riots in 2001 shook my foundation, and it started to bother the hell out of me. So the problem was, for me, is what makes a human being kill another person and believe it's righteous. And I realized it's a lack of opportunities. So why is it the fact that, and if you look at India today, and we are having an increased number of insurgencies. So it's not only Maoists, it's not only insurgencies in the northeast, it's not only say Hindus versus Muslims versus Christians or versus Sikhs. It's also, say for example, in Maharashtra, underemployed Maharashtrian youth which are mobilized by political parties to hit out at people from Bihar or from some other state, because it's becoming exceedingly, the violence is increasing. And I believe that the violence is increasing because people are unable to lead their life. So everybody defines life in their own way. So some people say the fact that, you know what, I need one-time meal a day, that's fine. Like I define my life as I need my bread, butter, beer every day. If I don't get my bread, butter, beer every day, I become cranky after a couple of days, and after a month or so, I become extremely agitated. And then somebody will come down the line and use that frustration to mobilize and hit out against somebody. That's exactly what's happening right now. what I've realized in India, the crux of it all is if we can create opportunities. That means if a person wants to live in their forest, so be it. Let them have the opportunity to live in the forest. If a person wants to go and study abroad and work abroad, whatever thing, that's fine. As long as the person has access to that opportunity, to their lifestyle, it's fine. So how do we create opportunities within India and more specifically within rural India? Using that premise is what got me endeavoring forward. To move forward in terms of, so that was the only idea which got me forward. So how do we, so it began as a self journey as to how do I belong to this enigma or brilliance which is India, and then what is the problem which faces it, and subsequently what could I do, and now it's moved on to the fact that it's no longer I, it's the entire team which is moving forward and making a difference. The biggest obstacle is self. In terms of self-doubt, in terms of self-motivation, in terms of what to do next, that's the biggest problem. I can also elaborate your typical other ones. Everybody will say, and that's also true for us. Finance is a big challenge. In terms of the other challenge is building a team, having no idea what to do next, or should you stick with a particular product? Should you diversify? N number of problems. But I realized that the biggest challenge is within, not without. The other big challenge that we have per se is we're dealing with communities of different mindsets. So on one hand, we've got villagers who are of a mindset which is, for them 5 minutes in reality is 40 minutes or maybe an hour. And then you've got tourists in Bombay who 5 minutes means actually 2 minutes. So we're dealing with people with different mindsets and they're both coming together to interact. So their understandings are different. How do you make them interact together with minimalistic chances of irritating or rubbing each other off badly? When I left the MBA Institute, I thought like, hey, I mean, when we started off this, there was an NGO called Watershed Organizing Trust, which incubated grassroots. The first thing was within 6 months we'll have it up and running, and then that was lesson number 1 in life. To have a baby takes 9 months, you can't have it in 2 days. So it took us 3 years to figure out what is actually happening. It was only after 3.5 years that we formed the company and then decided to move forward. And it was only after 7 years that we've been able to get some amount of good positive cash flows. So on one hand, so as I said, it started off as a means of self-discovery. As in, hey, what do I belong over here and what can be done with regards to that? It also began as a scare factor. If something was not done, what's going to happen to me, my family, and my community. So it started off with that. Subsequently, what motivates me now, when I look back on hindsight, it's the fact that I've equipped myself with different skill sets. Be it financial planning, to learning how to clean a toilet, to learning how to build one, or hiring teams, strategic mergers and acquisitions. I literally have grown in skills across. Yeah. And that's exciting. You're doing different things. You're doing things which literally have been set precedents for other people to follow. So that's brilliant. Okay, and the other thing which is also right now good is in terms of whenever I meet my batchmates or sorts, everybody's saying, boss, you're doing great. And for me, it's like on the other way. I think y'all are doing great. I mean, y'all guys are earning in lakhs of rupees per month. You're flying international. You've got flats of your own. But they're like, it's boring. At the end of it all, I'm dragging myself to work every single day. That's something which I do. Listen, if you want, use it. If you don't want, discard it. At the end of it all, decision is yourself. So I believe it's not in social ventures, I believe in ventures itself. I believe the fact that youth should either start up a venture of themselves or join startups. And the reason for it is, number one, people who join upfront immediately from college or postgraduate college, who join upfront for that salary of say 20 lakhs a year, are expected to perform way upfront and on extremely specialized tasks. And at the end of it all, because you're being paid 20 lakhs a year, as a company, I would demand at least a crore from you. So your ability to experiment with yourself and learn new things is very less. At the end of it all, you know that after 5-6 years, you will tend to get bored. That high specialization may not necessarily equip you in a particular way. You've had enough of money and now you're kind of fed up. On the other hand, I would advise people to first have a dream. If you don't have a dream, follow people with dreams. Join startups. it's brilliant when you have literally no money and you have to figure things out. You will figure out and do things which are unbelievable. You will experiment. You will make so many mistakes in life that after 7 years or 10 years, people will pay you much more amount of money not to make those mistakes. So if the startup works, if your venture works, great. If your venture doesn't work, it's even more brilliant. Because at least you've done something, and then you can subsequently either start up another venture or join somebody else who's going to pay you for that experience that you have. We're basically looking at a venture which is creating 1 million livelihood opportunities across India every year. We are right now, every year we create around 250 we engage 250 families across 3 different villages. By 2020, we should be on track to touch 200 villages across India, and at least every year create 1 million opportunities. So right now we are something like around 10,000 employment, 10 to 15,000 employment days per year is what we create. More stuff, you'll figure things out. Yeah, and be practical. I mean, there's one stand of being extremely idealistic. If it works for you, great. You can also be practical. If that works for you, great. When people say the fact that in India the regulations are stringent or it's extremely difficult, but also we want to realize that it is in countries like India that entrepreneurship is more prevalent because anybody can start a venture. I mean, and figure out your legal replications of whatever regulation issues later. Just start. Everything works out. There's been an increase in number of social venture funds and angels in investing in the social entrepreneurship space since the time we started. But so in 2005 was when the term social entrepreneurship was kind of coined, and there's been a huge buzz. There have been various things to help that buzz. The fact that capitalism as a means of economy has failed. So people are trying to figure out, what other forms of markets could be used, what other forms of market-based economies could be used to look at possible solutions. So a lot of people are now investing in social entrepreneurship. And what is all the more interesting is people are willing to invest in ventures and to the tune anyway from 20 lakhs. So VCs that came from 20 lakhs to around 3-4 crores, and they're willing to do that. And there's an increasing number of that coming into the picture. Yeah, but the challenge is in all of this funding, you got to realize that do you actually want it? Many a times everybody just goes, what, I want money, I want money. Money is not the only premise. From an investor, you need, besides money, you need other things. Either they add value to your team or to the product or to the organization as a whole. Getting just dumb money at the end of it all is the most painful aspect. I believe Indian government should do a lot to promote entrepreneurship. Let me put it like this, any venture ultimately has a social replication to it. Why? Because it's creating employment opportunities. It's an entirely different issue that people want to call it a social venture or not. That's your call for themselves. This is my belief in the entire thing. As long as you're creating employment opportunities, you've got social impact. Yeah. So the Indian government does need to do, I believe, things in order to look at incubation. So it could be means, for example, if you look at international, the scenario abroad, there's a very strange thing. So abroad, if you want $10,000, if you want $50,000 for your venture as a startup incubation fund, most colleges will actually invest in that. So as you progress from angels, which is like up to $50,000 investment, you progress to VCs, which is like from $1 million to $15 million investment. As you progress higher in your investment things, internationally the pyramid becomes smaller. So finally, when you need say $500 million, whatever thing, the number of private equity players over there are extremely small. Strangely enough, in India it's flippant. The number of private equity players in India are massive. That means in private equity, people have already established their model, they're only looking to maybe expand their entire model of somewhere. So those private equity in India are huge. There are many players. But the number of angel investors in India are very small. Maybe legislation could be done with regards to encourage institutions, education institutions, to incubate in terms of funding people and subsequently taking a stake. So one of the challenges right now in terms of legally in India, trust cannot partake in a risk venture. So trust cannot buy shares. This is what holds a lot of these institutions back. One, have a dream. Okay, it's very, very important to have a dream. It's great if the dream works out. It's even better if the dream doesn't work out, because finally you realize, hey, that's not meant for you. Go ahead and make mistakes. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant to make mistakes. You will hate it at that point of time, or on hindsight, it's because of making mistakes that ultimately you'll figure something out. But to figure what works, you'll have to make 100,000 mistakes. That's extremely important. The other thing what you have to do is you've got to be able to believe in yourself, and it's in making mistakes that you will suddenly get self-belief. So keep on trusting yourself. There are a couple of things you can also do in order to help you move forward. One, have a network of mentors. Mentors are people who are not your same age, not your same gender, not from the same community, not from the same line of work, but people whom you respect and can touch base. And you'll be surprised as to how they can actually expand your perspective in what you're doing. So have a set of mentors whom you touch base on a regular basis to see what has to be done, give you a very interesting perspective.